You know what I always say, always keep your beard groomed, so... Well, it's good that you join us again. As I stated last time, we are now starting each broadcast with the question of the day, so let's get right to it. Let's see here. This one comes from a man named Landon. He says, Dr. Cortex, how long does it take for one to fly around the moon? Well, quite frankly, my good lad, we've been to the moon before with NASA, yes? So we can, we can give a legitimate answer. Now, if you recall, in July of 1969, Apollo 11 was sent out into space to put the first people on the moon. Now, once the cabin compartment dropped to drop off the crew members, the lunar craft shot around the moon at 25,000 miles per hour. And at that time, it took only 20 minutes to make one full revolution around the moon. But if you were to somehow take, say, a bus or an automobile up on the lunar surface, it would take about 5 days, count them, 5 full days to travel around the circumference of the moon. Now, with that being said, the automobile must be traveling at a constant speed of 60 miles per hour with, of course, no brakes. But I hope that gives you an idea of how long it takes to travel around the moon, so to say. A good question, Landon. But anyhow, let's get into the meat and potatoes of things. Yes, sorry, my lips are fumbling all the time. We are shooting past the moon, and we are going straight to the planet Mars. Computer, get to course charting while I get out some data. Here we go. Now, the planet Mars is named after the Roman god of war. Again, for all of those mythology experts out there. In relative to the Sun, Mars is 137 million miles away from it, and its diameter of 4,221 miles takes it about half the size of Earth's diameter, so to say. Now, taking into account Mars's distance from the Sun, it revolves around the Sun at about 687 days. That's about 2 Earth years, wouldn't you say so? 365 times 2, well, it's a little bit over that, but it's pretty close, wouldn't you say? Strangely enough, a Mars day is about the same time as an Earth day, with about 24.5 hours in one complete rotation. Now, Mars does have an atmosphere, but unfortunately, one in which we really can't breathe in. It's about 95% carbon dioxide, 2.7% nitrogen, 1.6% argon, and the rest is all miscellaneous gases, such as helium, hydrogen, small traces of oxygen, but not enough to allow humans to breathe. But temperatures are a bit mild-ish there. Now, when I say mild, not scorching hot, so to say. Rather cold, really. About negative 260 degrees at night, and just a little bit higher in the daytime. But all that goes into account of how far it is from the Sun, that 137 million miles. Taking all that into mind, a human can probably survive on Mars for about 2 minutes without any protective equipment on. Now, Mars, in fact, does have 2 moons revolving around it. Those moons being Phobos and Deimos. Really irregular-looking objects when compared to our moon's sort of rounded surface, so to say. Now, Mars has been on the minds of several astronomers because it is the site of sort of the next step of human space exploration. And a few things goes into account of that. Using the several rovers, I'm sure many of you have seen the little rovers. Discovery comes to mind, all of those rovers that NASA sends to the surface of Mars. We have gathered several evidences. Unicellular life we have found to be on Mars. Quite interesting, in fact, you should look it up. Water, real water, that good old H2O that we are all familiar with. The poles of Mars are in fact cold enough to store dry ice, we have found in recent years, so that's very good. Old volcanic activity has really shaped the surface of Mars with its several valleys and craters. One thing comes to mind. The highest point on Mars is an old shield volcano. It's called Olympus Mons, and it's about 14 miles high. That's really incredible. In fact, it is the highest solid point in our entire solar system. Really amazing stuff, I must say. And Mars has its own weather. Now, when I'm saying weather, I don't mean when we talked about Venus and how it has acidic rain and acidic storms. I'm not talking about that because that's constantly going on. But Mars has specific and alternating weather patterns. There's some days, of course, it can be as clear as glass outside with no clouds in the sky, but other times, Mars is known to have severe dust storms, just swooshing over the surface, gathering large amounts of dust, and just, you know what I mean? Like, large amounts of wind, high amounts of wind, in fact, really. So it's a very dynamic planet, and one that has really been the central study of many astronauts and astronomers, and I can't wait to see where those studies take us. Now, as far as the material of Mars, that sort of red dust that you see, that is oxidized iron, my friends. And of course, that is why Mars is known as the red planet. You know, whenever you see an iron, like an iron tool, and you see how it's sort of red, orange, maybe a bit of brown, think about that when you think about the surface of Mars. Now, the mantle just beneath the crust of Mars is fortunately liquid. That sort of strengthens Mars's overall magnetivity, how it sort of brings about a magnetic force across these poles. Now that liquid mantle made of oxygen, iron, and some traces of magnesium. Fortunately, very strong metals. The core is solid iron and iron sulfide. Now that may seem good at first, but unfortunately that makes Mars not quite as dense as Earth, so to say. But with all of the differences between Earth and Mars aside, quite frankly, Mars is a very good colonization planet. Yes, I can see it now. Loads of potential. Colonies springing up across the wake of Olympus Mons. I think it's quite beautiful, wouldn't you say? I think it is too. And it would be nice to have sort of a humanity colonizing Mars. Yes? And all this talk about colonization has really gotten me hungry. I always get hungry about this time. I don't know why. But, fortunately, I know someone who can help during these times. Jambot! Hello! I hear that you have a snack for us, fit for a Martian, so to say.
And a simple snack as well. Using more schematics I collected from the surface of Mars, I created a recipe I like to call Martian crackers. You'll need, pita or saltine crackers, cheese or hummus, grape or cherry tomatoes. Now, cut each tomato in half. Then, spread each cracker with cheese or hummus. Finally, add a piece of tomato on top of each cracker. It's a rather straightforward snack, and a delicious one. Back to you, Dr. Cortex.
Thank you very much, my good friend. I can already taste the cheese and the tomato. But I believe that wraps us up today. And I do believe that next time we will be exploring the planet Tatooine. No, wait. Hold on. Naboo! No, that's not it either. This is quite embarrassing. I'll just ask the computer. Excuse me a moment. Daggone blasted memory of mine. Computer! I need help. There's that piece of paper again, I must say. Of course! I knew it all the time. The next time we meet, we shall be discovering the planet Jupiter! The biggest in the solar system, in fact. A monstrous planet, so to say. King of them all. Titan. All that good stuff. But anyhow, I do believe I shall see you next time. And a big shout out to our question asker of the day, Landon. Good question once again. Very well then. Let's blast off, my fellow space cadets. In 3, 2, 1.